Welcome back to Football Daily, where you guessed it, we're going to be talking about the transfer window. Right then, after the success of the last episode I did, where I was looking at each Premier League club's biggest transfer rumour and ranking them about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I thought, let's do an updated version. So it's very, very simple. In front of me here, I have one transfer rumour, a major transfer rumour, attributed to each Premier League club. A lot of the suggestions came from you guys at home on Twitter, and I've also got 5 categories. I've got nailed on, I've got likely, I've got one to keep your beady little eyes on, I've got unlikely, and I've got absolutely no chance. No chance. At Arsenal, I could have done Gabby Jesus here, but I did Gabby Jesus last time. I wanted to mix it up a little bit and talk about Sassuolo's Scamacca. Big old boy, Scamacca, 6'4", 6'5", but really gets involved in build-up an awful lot. He's averaging about 0.6 goals per 90 across the last 2 Serie A seasons, and he would offer a very different option to Gabby Jesus. Maybe could play alongside Gabby Jesus if needs be. So I don't think this is an either-or. This might be a fact that they could play together. Now, not only did he get 16 goals in Serie A last season, I think the last time an Arsenal player did that, by the way, was Aubameyang back in 1920, but he also slots in quite easily because of the way Sassuolo keep the ball. They average the 5th most possession in Serie A. Arsenal average the 5th most possession in the Premier League. I quite like this fit. I think it's one to keep your eye on because I think all focus is on Gabby Jesus right now. But you never know. This is the sort of deal that could get done in the background. At Aston Villa, we've got Nathan Ake. Still looking for defensive reinforcements. Of course, Consa is out for 5 months. They have got Diego Carlos through the door at 25 million squidney. Tyrone Mings is still there as well. My worry for this move, and the reason I'm going to put it in unlikely, is I think Nathan Ake, I think he's only started 19 Premier League games since he's joined Manchester City. I think if he leaves, he wants to be a guaranteed first name on the team sheet centre-back. And with Mings, Consa and Carlos there, is he that under Gerrard? I'm not too sure. Let's talk about Bournemouth's moves for Ben Brereton Diaz then, who's still only 23 years old, by the way. You forget how young he is, and he has had a fantastic season. Obviously, he had that ankle ligament problem as well, and he only scored, I think, 1 or 2 goals in 2022, which was not ideal, but he is mirroring his expected goals, and can't help but think this is a really exciting and fun move. He's only got a year left on his contract. Apparently blackballed in the region of 13 million quid. I think if I was Bournemouth, I would do that. You need as much firepower as you can get. I think it's one to keep your eye on. That would be fun. Brereton Diaz under Parker. Come on. Brentford are definitely going to be in the need for a creator, aren't they? It's looking increasingly unlikely that they're going to be able to bring Christian Eriksen back to the club. Now, let's have it right and let's get it very clear. They are not going to be able to replace Eriksen with a player of that calibre. It's just not going to happen. But they are being linked with Saeed Benrahma, who, of course, really had his best time of things in England at Brentford, particularly in that 1920 season. I think he put up 20 goal involvements, none of them from the penalty spot. I know it was in the Championship, but still, he obviously has a history of Brentford. It was very successful. I'm surprised that West Ham let him go. I am surprised that West Ham wanted to let him go. It seems like they're doing so because they want to bring Jesse Lingard to the club, but I think it would take a little bit of a sizable fee. It doesn't feel very Brentford to bring Benrahma back. It feels like they go out and find somebody playing for Midland or in Poland. I think this one's unlikely. Let's talk about Steffi Mavidi to Brighton then. We could have talked about Nsiko, but that looks like it's going to happen. He's still only 18, and I do think Brighton need more firepower. Not the best time of it recently, Mavidi. Obviously, you might remember him from his Arsenal days, and he went to Juventus, I think. Now he is in League 1. The one thing I will say is he's consistently overperformed his expected goals since he's been in League 1. Now, those aren't huge numbers, but consistently he's scoring when he shouldn't be. So I do think there is something in Brighton just signing someone because they underperform expected goals so much. Bring that level up with a really clinical finisher. I think it's one to keep your eye on. I wouldn't say I would be putting money on it, but I do think they need another forward even after Nsiko. Let's talk Jules Koundé then at Chelsea, because this one looks like it's hotting up, and I think this one might be my first likely. He's got an €80 million release clause. I think Fabrizio said they're willing to deal about €65 million, and Chelsea are in the middle of a defensive revamp if you've ever seen one. Rudiger's gone, Christensen's gone, Marcos Alonso looks like he's going, Azpilicueta's potentially on the ropes. I think that Jules Koundé offers a very good and sensible option at centre-back because of his age, because of the way he's played in Spain. I think he suits this Thomas Tuchel tactical system, and people often level at him. You know, he's too small for a Premier League centre-back, 5'10", 5'11". Maybe he might get bullied by the occasional forward, but we've seen Thomas Tuchel use Reece James at times as a right centre-back, as Azpilicueta as a right centre-back. I don't think height is the be-all and end-all for a Thomas Tuchel centre-back. And he does carry the ball brilliantly. He's very athletic. I like this move a lot if the fee's right. I think Sevilla have already let Diego Carlos go. It's going to be costly. But Chelsea got another option at this stage. Next up, we've got Joe Aribo to Crystal Palace, which I think is a really interesting one. I think this is being linked by The Athletic as well, so quite reputable sources. Obviously, Palace have lost Conor Gallagher now. He's gone back. It looks like they're looking to sign another midfielder, maybe not in the exact mould of Conor Gallagher, because Eberechi Eze can also play there. But Joe Aribo, you know, really good dribbler of the ball. I think 5th most dribbles in the SPL last season, 13 goal and assists, very physical in the midfield, as we saw in that Europa League run. I like it. I think he's one to keep your eye on. I think Crystal Palace have done some really smart business recently, and this would be another example of that. James Tarkowski to Everton. This one looks like it's nailed on. I think this is done by the time this video comes out, potentially. He's had his medical. I think he's a real leader. I'm not too sure about the fit with the high line that Frank Lampard wants to operate with, but I do see a future where Frank Lampard changes that tactically, realises he can't play quite so high with this Everton side, drops it back a little bit deeper, and for me, Tarkowski would be the best of any of Everton's centre-backs. Yerry Mina up there as well, but he's just never fit, is he? So I think this is a good move, and it's going to happen. For Fulham, there was loads of suggestions, and one man's name kept popping up, Gareth Bale. Here's my answer to that. I'm not even going to bother discussing it. No f***ing chance. Leeds are extremely interested in Marc Roca at Bayern Munich. Now, Leeds have done some really interesting business, haven't they, over the last couple of weeks? And they're getting their business done early, which I like. This was linked by The Athletic, so very reputable source, as I said earlier. It's not the best time of it since he left Espanyol and went to Bayern Munich, but he must have realised when he was going there he was likely to be a squad player. He has only made 24 appearances, though, in 2 years, which doesn't suggest he's going to hit the ground running at Leeds, but I do really like this as a signing. I think it's smart business to go and take some of the offcuts of some of the elite sides across Europe. You know, Jesse Marsch has probably got some idea of what Marc Roca offers from his time in Germany, even though it was only a short spell in Germany. And when he was in Spain, let's not forget, he was putting up 6 or 7 progressive passes a game. So I think Marc Roca is likely, and I really like the move. Lee's doing some smart business. Leicester are going to be looking for a central midfield replacement for Youri Tielemans, aren't they? Because Youri Tielemans is out the door, and the rumours persist about James Garner going there on loan. I would be surprised to see this one happen. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to stick this with an unlikely. I think Erik ten Hag's definitely going to want to assess him in pre-season, and even then, if it doesn't work out, I could see him just going back to Nottingham Forest, where he had a great time of it, was very settled. They're now a Premier League outfit. You know, it was consistent for them. I think 5th most minutes in the squad last season. Worked really well under Steve Cooper. So yeah, I think it'd be unlikely that he goes to Leicester. I reckon he gets assessed, and if it doesn't work, he goes back to Forest. Liverpool then. Do them big butt moves. Darwin Núñez. This one's nailed on now. Let's have it right. Everybody and their aunt is reporting it. Darwin Núñez has agreed personal terms. It looks like the fee is going to be about 100 million euros. They're coming in heavy, Liverpool. Backing Darwin Núñez in a big way. And it is a little bit of a risk. Now, from a goals point of view, let's have it right. Undeniable. Fantastic finisher last season. 26 goals in Liga NOS. And also in the Champions League. I'll make that very clear. Also in the Champions League. However, it is a small sample size. And it's a huge fee. It is a huge fee. It's a club record fee for Liverpool. The one positive you've got is that Liverpool don't get many wrong, do they? If Jurgen Klopp wants somebody, and Julian Ward and Michael Edwards and the transfer committee want somebody, it tends to go right, especially the big money moves. So I back this to be a success, even though it's a big risk, and it's going to happen. We're going to talk more about this on Sunday Vibes, coming out on the weekend, so I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but yeah, Man United in the mud yet again. Calvin Phillips to Manchester City is the next rumour we're going to analyse. I think it's one to keep your eye on. I don't know about this fit. Obviously, they're looking for a Fernandinho replacement, but is that Calvin Phillips? If you look at Rodri, who they've already got in the squad, incredible under pressure defensive midfielder, sticking up incredible pass numbers, I think over 92% pass completion, always keeps the ball ticking over, incredible amount of touches per game. Calvin Phillips is a different profile, and maybe that's the reason Manchester City want him, but his numbers, about half the passes under pressure of a player like Rodri, at a pretty considerably worse success rate, about 81%. But he does have that really dynamic switch of play. He's extremely physical, and that is more in the Fernandinho role. So, I don't know. I think it's one to keep your eye on. It would have to come at a big old fee, and I do like Calvin Phillips. I'm just not sure about the fit at Manchester City. Alright, Manchester United then. Frenkie de Jong is obviously the persistent big transfer room, and I would still have him, as I did last time, in the keep your eye on it bracket. It looks like talks are kind of progressing, and Erik ten Hag seems to be slowly turning his head a little bit, mainly due to the fact that I think everybody's aware at this stage Barcelona are going to have to sell because they have to get cash. They are in a seriously bad financial way, especially if they want to sign players like Lewandowski. But we're not going to be talking about Frenkie de Jong. We'll do Ibrahim Sangare, which is a rumour that sprung up yesterday on Sky Sports. He's got a €35 million release clause, and everybody knows, Football Daily, love us some Sangare. We have been hyping this guy since he was at Toulouse, where he was putting up incredible tackle and interception numbers. That has continued in the Eredivisie, and I think at €35 million, this will be an extremely intelligent bit of business. I don't think he's the elite cream of the crop defensive midfielder, but United have to pick and choose their options this summer because of budgetary restraints, and I think Sangare would be maybe the best defensive midfield option out there. So I would love to see it, but I'm going to put it in unlikely because I think it's just too intelligent for United to do. I don't see United making moves like Sangare, where they go and take somebody that isn't a headline name, isn't a money move. It's too smart, isn't it? Sven Botman to Newcastle is the next one then, and surprisingly, this one is looking increasingly likely. This is probably halfway between nailed on and likely at this stage. Newcastle, if they can get this bit of business done, have got some player. He's a real physical specimen. He's great on the ball. Maybe a slightly underrated passer. You look at some of his passing numbers on paper, don't look great, but when you watch him in the flesh, he's really, really attractive on the ball. He can get turned and spun a little bit easy on the counter-attack, but I don't think Newcastle, playing Botman and Dan Burn, are going to be suddenly playing this really high line under Eddie Howe. So I don't think that should affect him too much. And, at £40 million, it's an outlay. It's a big outlay, but they were going to spend that on Diego Costa. I'd much rather spend that on Sven Botman. Nottingham Forest obviously being linked with a lot of goalkeepers because theirs is out the door, and one of them is Nick Pope. I'm surprised that Forest are the side being linked with Nick Pope, and that's no offence to Forest, but Nick Pope, since he's been in the Premier League, I think his post-shot expected goals, he's saved about 17 more than expected. He is the ideal relegation kind of chuck your body in the way of it goalkeeper. If they can get this deal done, it is magnificent business for Forest. It's going to cost a little bit because Burnley are going to want decent fees for players like Pope because of their financial situation, but they are dropping a league. He's going to want to stay in the Premier League, and I'm just surprised that there aren't better teams being linked with him. I'm going to put it in unlikely because I still feel like surely somebody high up the league takes a stab at Nick Pope. He's such a good shot stopper, not amazing with the ball at his feet, but there are teams in the league that don't need playing out with the ball at your feet. I'm sticking unlikely, but I really like Nick Pope. We spoke about him last time, we'll speak about him again. It's Gavin Bazunu. He's going to Southampton. Southampton are a club that I think could have had a look at Nick Pope, but obviously they're targeting this younger profile of players with the new owner coming through the door. It's going to be nailed on. This one looks like it's happening at about £10 million. Manchester City rate him extremely highly, and I think for that reason they're going to be inserting a buyback clause and a sell-on fee into the deal. Yeah, every time I've watched Gavin Bazunu, he's looked pretty decent, but that's not an awful lot. So if there are any Portsmouth fans out there that can tell me more about his loan spell, he's obviously been hyped massively by his manager there, and Ireland fans that can tell me more about his time in the Irish national team, let me know in the comments. But it seems like a pretty smart move given that Southampton need goalkeepers and he is one of the best young prospects in the league. Bastoni to Tottenham is the next rumour, and this is looking increasingly unlikely. His agent came out and said he's going to be staying at Inter Milan. He was Inter Milan's most used centre-back last season, an absolute beast. I think he conceded, 23 goals, 26 starts. Conte loves him. Conte loves him, and left-footed centre-backs are hard enough to find as it is on the market, but this one isn't going to happen at this stage, is it? I think it's more likely they end up going for Pau Torres, probably. Bastoni, as much as Conte wants him, I can see him staying in Italy. West Ham, Nayef Aguerd. My pronunciation might not be spot on there, so forgive me if it isn't. Don't know loads about him, so I've gone to Euro Expert, who you guys have probably seen on EFD from time to time, ask him a little bit more about him. He says he's very, very quick, really, really good in the 1v1 situation. Not the most brave passer of the ball, but does his simple stuff very well, over a 90% pass completion rate. And he has said, fantastic move. Now, it does seem like this one is definitely progressing, so I'm going to put it in the keep your eye on section. And, you know, if you believe Euro Expert, it's going to be a good signing. I don't know enough about that. Wolves are being linked with Takumi Minamino. Obviously, they do need forward options, and Liverpool are trying to sell. They've got Carvalho coming through the door, and apparently the big Darwin Núñez coming through the door as well. And Origi's left. It looks like Minamino is going to be a casualty too. And apparently they want 17 million for him. Now, for me, that is a lot of money. That is a lot of money for a player who hasn't consistently played football over the last couple of years. Admittedly, he scored some big goals in cup competitions for Liverpool last season, but do Wolves judge him on that? I don't know. When he was at Southampton, he was only producing, what, 0.2 expected goals per 90? Didn't hit the ground running there, didn't set the world on fire. I would be wary about signing Minamino for nearly £20 million if I was Wolves. And for that reason and that fee, I'm going to put him in unlikely, I think. So that was my ranking of moves that could potentially be happening over the next couple of weeks. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.